Hey guys, this is Kevin for Pixavert.com. In this video, we're going to be talking power supplies, how to choose a power supply for your PC in 2023. Now, we're going to start off by looking at a very high-end power supply and discussing why some features in the very high-end power supply are going to be essential and some features you can kind of sacrifice as you move down the price range. This is the EVGA Supernova 1600 watt power supply, titanium efficiency with eco mode. Now with this power supply, if we move down the marketing material, we find that there is hardware protection. These are hardware protections that you find in high quality power supplies. If you followed any recommendation that I've made for a power supply in the last 5 years, I've made sure that all of them have got protections. This protects your components, it protects the power supply itself, keeps that safe. So when you move down the price range, I never sacrifice the protections. I think those are absolutely essential. Now we're going to be looking at power supplies, how to choose them, making sure they've got these kinds of protections, what the role of ATX 3.0 is going to be, what the role of PCIe Gen 5 is going to be, and also we'll be looking at aesthetics, noise, and energy efficiency. Now, if the power supply is keeping your components inside the PC case safe, what's keeping the power supply safe? Now, if you haven't got one of these, please get one as soon as possible. This is what's known, you know what this is. This is an extension cable. You can connect several devices to your wall socket. However, what's this £60,000 connected equipment warranty? This is not just an extension cord. It is what's known as a surge protected power strip. It provides protection for equipment connected to it. It keeps the power supply safe. It keeps the PC safe. The one I'm looking at here, if you've got one like this and it's more than 3 years old, you need to renew it as soon as possible. Now, those are what's going to keep your equipment safe, because we've got weather on Earth, we've got power surges. You want to make sure everything is protected. Let's take a look at something which is negotiable. This is going to be noise. And with the EVGA 1600 watt power supply, you can see it's got what's known as eco mode. This is a mode that allows it to run silent until it reaches 40% load. That's going to be 640 watts on this power supply. If you don't have eco mode turned on, it will run at a constant 26 decibels, which is noticeable. And it will be at that level every time you switch the computer on. So noise is one of those things I consider to be super important. If you're running a power supply for a computer you're going to use for audio recording, having completely silent fans is a really nice idea. And if you're using most PCs, 640 watts, you're not going to reach that. So you would have a completely silent PC on eco mode. So people were kind of surprised I was recommending a 1600 watt power supply a few weeks ago. There are benefits, and there are benefits even if you don't need the full 1600 watts. Now, this power supply, being a very high-end one, has what's known as a fully modular interface. It has got no cables attached inside the box. You have to attach the cables from a supply that's included inside a pouch. Now these cables, you're always going to have more than you need. They will have ATX standard connectors at one end. Those will connect to the motherboard. They will have the power supply manufacturer's own connectors that will connect to the modular power supply. They'll always have the wall socket plug there. This is pretty standard for ATX, and they'll have little they all seem to connect using just four screws. All of them, all ATX power supplies, just 4 screws, no matter how large they are. In terms of size, this one is huge. It's got a huge fan, and typically the larger the fan, the quieter the power supply. Now, having looked at this one, you can see even now that there are certain things that are really important, like protection and safety. And there are things like the size, those are negotiable. Something else that's negotiable is the energy efficiency. This one is 80 plus titanium, and that is a really, really good quality, highly efficient power supply. As you move down the price range, you don't typically find titanium quality power supplies, but then again, you're not going to be paying $500 nearly for those less expensive power supplies. After safety, energy efficiency is the most important thing. Here we've got, we're at the Clear Result website, houses the 80 plus standard, and you can see here that we have got several ratings. If you've ever built a PC, you will know these ratings. They're energy efficiency ratings. 80% efficiency is when the ATX standard first appeared, it required a 60% energy efficiency. That was back in the 90s. It then moved up and adopted the 80 plus standard as a minimum, and I'm not sure where we are now with the ATX standard. The ATX standard covers the vast majority of desktop PCs, Windows PCs. Titanium is currently the best one, and the difference between a titanium and an 80 plus could be, for a 1600 watt power supply, could be hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands of dollars. If you're using your power supply for GPU mining, for instance, you could save thousands of dollars, definitely hundreds of dollars, by moving up from, say, an 80 plus to a titanium over the course of a 5 or 10 year warranty. As well as the 80 plus standard, there is a newer standard called Cybernetics, and this one tries to resolve some issues with the 80 plus standard. And if you guys want to know more about this, let me know in the comments. I'm interested to know, do you think we need a new energy efficiency standard? This one goes up to Diamond. It also covers noise levels, and it also has some other certifications that are not available with the 80 plus standard. What do you guys think about this? Is it something that you're interested in? Now, one of the main standards, as I've mentioned before, is the ATX standard. This is a standard that is evolving, and this year we had one of the biggest evolutions in ATX. We had the arrival of ATX3, which has now incorporated the PCIe Gen 5 connector onto the power supply. So the PCIe Gen 5 connector, which is this bad boy here, this little connector there, that is now going to become a feature of power supplies from 2023 onwards. MSI have already got this one out. I've discussed this before, and I think I actually recommended this one. It has got the 12 volt power connector here. Connector will be able to carry up to 600 watts of power. And it's something that you see already with the RTX 4090 and the RTX 4080. You're going to see it also with the RTX 4070. Seasonic have already announced that they're going to come up with power supplies that will compete with MSI's power supplies. That will be ATX 3.0 and PCIe 5 standard. The new ATX 3.0 standard is really important in my view, principally because it incorporates some of the safety features which I've considered very important for a really long time. It incorporates other features like the 12 volt high power cable for graphics cards. For instance, it will handle spikes, power spikes in gaming a little bit better. Maybe not quite as important. The Seasonic ones will be coming out in December. I expect that these are going to be sold out for quite a few weeks as soon as they arrive. Now, one of the features about the new standard is that it allows power supplies to be labeled with either 150, 300, 450 or 600 watt connectors. Currently we're seeing 600 watt connectors and pretty much nothing else. So these will not completely replace the old 8-pin connectors, but they are going to become a feature that we're going to see very, very frequently on new power supplies. Some manufacturers like Seasonic have started producing what could be called adapters. These are adapters allow you to take an ATX2 power supply and to adapt it for PCIe Gen 5. So they won't take you from ATX2 to ATX3, but they do take you from ATX2 to PCIe Gen 5 with the 16-pin power supply cable. In this particular case, it takes two 8-pin connectors and routes them to one 600 watt power supply connector. There are some important instructions here about safety. They've got different 8-pin to 16-pin connectors. They're all compatible with a limited range of power supplies from Seasonic. So Corsair have their ones, and they've got their own sort of limitations on how you can use it. With Seasonic, they want you to be using it with their prime and focus. And this is probably something that is really good for the environment, because it means you don't need to get rid of your old Seasonic power supply. And that prepares you for the RTX 4000 series and also the RTX 3090 Ti. I can't believe my eyes. Now, currently the most power hungry graphics cards, the RTX 4090, they require something like this. I've recommended this before. This is a Corsair 1200 watt power supply. This is kind of like the minimum that you should be using for connecting to the RTX 4090 if you want to overclock and you want to use it with a high-end CPU. Corsair have, of course, their own adapter cable that you can use to connect to PCIe Gen 5. And even if you're not using an RTX 4090, if you want at some point to upgrade to an RTX 4090, you probably do want to have this already installed. The $234, they actually doubled in price during the GPU mining craze. If you're going to settle with one of AMD's graphics cards, the latest graphics cards, or if you're going to go with something like an RTX 4070, or you're not going to be seriously overclocking an RTX 4080, this 1000 watt power supply from Corsair should do you justice. It's extremely well designed, and at $167, this is Black Friday prices. It's pretty good. It's pretty good value. Amazon, when I'm looking for Seasonic, I usually just type in Seasonic power supply, and that will bring up a bunch of fairly expensive but usually very high quality power supplies with 10 and 12 year warranties from Seasonic. Amazon is sometimes really garbage for finding equipment. I'll have links to the recommended power supplies in the description if you and also the adapters once they become available on Amazon. I'm going to link to this page as well. It's a page where you can actually carry out some searches for 80 plus silver, gold, platinum, titanium. You can search for the amount of watts that you need, and you can search for ATX. Now, I actually did do such a search, and you can see here I filled it in at 80 plus gold to titanium. I selected 750 watts for my power supply ATX, and these were the results. It gave me a Corsair 750 watt gold, fully modular power supply, and also an EVGA Supernova 750 watt gold power supply. Now, this one has eco mode, which is pretty cool. That's great for noise. It has excellent energy efficiency, obviously as a gold standard power supply. This one comes with a 10-year warranty. This one is a 7-year warranty. Given that Corsair have got the 8-pin to 16-pin adapter, which I could use for my RTX 4070 and 4060 when those come out, I would probably go with the Corsair simply because of that, and also the 10-year warranty. Now, with EVGA and Corsair, these are brands that I've used for a really long time, but I would still read a review if I could get my hands on a review. I would certainly check the reviews. Very occasionally, even the really high quality manufacturers will come up with a dud power supply, and as you move down the price range, they do have to make sacrifices. So you find some power supplies with 3-year warranties. Never go below a 3-year warranty. Absolutely avoid anything with a 1-year warranty. Now, you can never ever waste time by reading a high quality review. This is one from Tom's Hardware. This is another power supply that I found on Amazon, and with this one the review is pretty interesting. They're telling us that the efficiency is 80 plus gold, and it's also cybernetics platinum. We've got the noise given at cybernetics A-. So they're using the cybernetics rankings, and they're also telling us something pretty interesting. We've got the protections that I usually would look for, but they also tell us something pretty interesting here. They're telling us that the device does not have fan failure protection. So this is the kind of little detail that you can pick up sometimes on reviews, and high quality review is really worth paying attention to. It gives you a little bit more information about the differences between the different brands, and it can help you to really hone precisely your own wishes as to what constitutes a really appropriate power supply for you. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. I'm interested to know again about what you think about the cybernetics and the new proposed standards. Do you want to see a video on that one? Leave a comment below, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video.